Let's do this again. Call to order the January 3rd, 2018 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Barbie, Commissioner Buckley,
Here.
Commissioner Castro,
Here.
Commissioner Kroll, Commissioner Neer, Commissioner Wright,
Here.
Chair Atherton.
Here. The approval of the agenda is next. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? And if none, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
So moved by
Second.
Buckley, second by Castro. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The approval of the December 6, 2017 meeting minutes. Any additions, deletions, corrections? And if none, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the minutes of December 6, 2017.
So moved by
Second.
Castro, second by Wright. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. This is the public participation portion where if anyone has anything to comment on that is not on the agenda, we welcome you to come to the podium and give your name and address. There is none, so we'll move on to new business. We have a public hearing on the petition by T-Mobile Central LLC, represented by Amanda, I'm sorry if I butcher this, Wegsren, of NTP Wireless for approval of a special use permit for an existing antenna to allow for an upgrade of communication equipment on top of the 16-story building located at 507 East Taylor Street in zoned RC1 Residential Conservation 1 District. And I open it up to Ms. Wesgren first.
Thank you. Good evening and Happy New Year. My name is Amanda Wegerson. I'm located at 125 South Clark Street, Chicago, Illinois. And I am here from NTP Wireless on behalf of T-Mobile Central LLC. T-Mobile is seeking approval to obtain a special use permit to upgrade their existing cellular equipment installation on the rooftop at 507 East Taylor Street, also known as the Taylor Street Plaza. T-Mobile has an existing lease with the DeKalb County Housing Authority, who has approved the equipment change proposal. T-Mobile currently has 12 antennas installed here. They're split into 3 different sectors, each containing 4 different antennas. The alpha sector faces north, the beta sector faces southeast, the gamma sector faces southwest. T-Mobile also has a cabinet installation which provides power to the site, and that's located just north of the beta sector on the southeast corner of the roof. T-Mobile's scope of work is a 1-for-1 replacement of antennas and ancillary equipment. 3 existing antennas will be removed and replaced with 3 new, so that's 1 for each sector. Also, 3 tower-mounted amplifiers, which we refer to as TMAs, will be removed and replaced with new radio units. They're very similar in size, and the TMAs are currently installed behind the antenna so as to not include additional visual obstruction from the ground. When those TMAs are removed, they will be replaced with the radios which will be installed in their place, so they also will not be visible. Sorry, skipped a slide there. No new existing cabinets are being proposed. All existing cabinets will remain as is. There are new RF modules which are indicated in blue, and those will be installed inside and atop the existing cabinet. I compare these to if you've ever seen like a server rack. I just passed one in the hallway here. They look basically like pizza boxes, and they sort of stack one on top of the other. This antenna plan shows the changes to each sector from a bird's eye view. Again, all equipment that's being removed is indicated in red. All proposed equipment is indicated in blue. So again, 1 antenna and 1 tower-mounted amplifier will be removed from each sector for a total of 3, and will be replaced with 1 antenna and 1 new radio unit. Again, those radio units will be installed directly behind the antenna. For those of us who don't look at construction drawings of antennas every day, I think this visual is a little bit easier to digest. Just a side view from one side of the building. So again, the removed antenna and the antenna that will take its place is indicated in blue in the inset portion. And you don't see a radio unit because, again, it's going to be installed behind the antenna. As detailed in the staff report, T-Mobile has proposed to install concealment tape on all existing and new equipment, and this is in an effort to reduce the visual impact. This tape features a non-metallic reflective surface, which creates a camouflage effect. The benefit of the tape is a significant reduction in the visual pollution without affecting the cellular signal or RF transmission. And this tape allows the equipment to blend into the existing environment by using a mirror-like surface, which I have a diagram that we'll show a little bit later. This film is manufactured by 3M. I passed their plant on the way into DeKalb. I know that they're located here. And this will allow T-Mobile to provide best-in-class connectivity without compromising the city of DeKalb's visual appeal. So we did include some photo simulations of the existing site. I do apologize, we took them from a public right-of-way so as not to encroach on anyone's property. They're taken from the north, east, south, and west. So what I'll do is I'll show an existing view, I'll show a proposed view with the concealment tape installed, as well as a zoomed-in comparison of the two. So this is the existing view from the north end. I like this picture the best. It shows all three sectors. So with the proposed concealment tape, it's a little bit difficult to see, but those antennas would essentially have that mirror-like view where it would reflect the sky and become a blue color. The comparison, I'm not sure if we could get rid of this little corner box here. The comparison, again, would show the difference between the existing installation with the new installation. There's no significant change in size, and that would also include the concealment tape. It says the existing view from the east, again with the proposed view and the side-by-side comparison. The south view, this one's the toughest to see, I think, of the four, along with the proposed view, along with the comparison. And lastly, view from the east, the proposed view, as well as the side-by-side comparison. What we did is we reached out to the contractor who would install this film for T-Mobile. They've recently completed some installations in New York, in Chicago, and in Pennsylvania. So I asked them to send me some sample photos of actual installations to give you a better idea of what it would look like. So for this first installation, this was antennas that are actually not stealth. They are outside atop of a church in Pennsylvania. I added an arrow here to be able to call out so that you can see where the antenna is actually installed. Again, it's using a mirror-like reflective surface to bounce off the color of the sky to camouflage the equipment. This diagram shows how, in the simplest form, the film is used from the perspective of an individual on the ground. They would assume that they are seeing the foreground or past the antennas, whereas it's acting as a mirror, so you're actually seeing the background of what it's reflecting. Here are some additional comparison installations without the concealment, and then the difference with that film installed. And I have a few samples here for you, just so you can see the difference. I added the arrows so that you can see where the antennas are installed. And this is 3M's original field trial photo, so this comes directly from them as the manufacturer. There are different solutions if the city was not interested in the reflective surface surface that was proposed for this site specifically. They do have samples of different patterns that could be utilized. There's also different color options, and these are all available. They come in glossy, matte, and flat finishes, so we could work with the city on what's preferred. Again, this sample is the color match that is proposed for this site. The antennas are installed above the roof line, so the reflection of the sky would likely be the best camouflage for the site specifically. There's the last sample. And that, I believe we did also discuss, there is an option to also camouflage the existing cabinets in addition to the antennas and radio units. That was all I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you. So now I open to the city.
Yes, thank you. The applicant went over their requests very well in terms of what they're asking for, special use permit. The equipment, we did one earlier this year, or last year, 2017 in the spring for US Cellular on top. Also, they had equipment up there and they're upgrading, and they got approval of the special use. I think the commission approved it back in February and the council in March. They didn't actually do the work yet. They're delaying that. They used, so we required them to do a special use permit as we were doing T-Mobile here. US Cellular used the panels, brick panels or fake brick panels to screen the antenna in the cabinet up there. That's what they showed in their plans. Again, they didn't do the actual work, but it's very similar request in terms of kind of a one-on-one replacement here with the antenna. So, as you know, with cellular equipment, we have some standards for special use for antenna facilities, and they're in the staff report, covered in Article 7, of course, in the UDO. There's 3 carriers up there right now. Of course, T-Mobile is one of them. The applicant went over what the upgraded equipment they'll be doing. But the standards, I'll go through those quick for special use permit for antenna facilities. Points of visual interest should be protected. There's a park to the east and west of this site. Again, they're using screening equipment with this concealment tape or concealment film. So I think that's kind of the key in terms of the screening. They're using this new technology and seen some images of that. So it looks pretty good. I mean, we don't have a sample in the city or one that, I can refer to, but from what I've seen and done a little research, it looks like it works pretty well in terms of concealing. And it was clarified that they can put that film on the cabinet too, but they're open to screening it with a panel like US Cellular was proposing to do, with kind of a brick panel that would look like the building itself. It's kind of about what the commission's direction in terms of that would like to see. But the other findings quickly, so the protecting the visual points of interest using that concealment tape, a reflective film technology. Again, the color will reflect the sky color. The reflective film will do that. The height, the UDO allows you to go up to no greater than 22 feet taller than the building with the equipment. They're at 11 feet above the existing building. Meeting all setbacks, of course. Lighting, there's no lighting currently on the roof. They're not proposing anything new. FAA doesn't require lighting at this location. There's no fencing or security needed since they're on top of the building. Landscaping and screening, obviously no landscaping required since they're on top of the building. We talked about the screening already with the concealment tape or film. No additional noise proposed. And then we also have the standards of a special use used for all special use permits. The first one talks about the special use complies with all provisions of the UDO, which they do. Special use will not be detrimental to the value of other property in the neighborhood. We've had 3 carriers up there with equipment for several years, and they have not shown that they're reducing the value of property within the surrounding area. Third one talks about that the proposed special use will not dominate the immediate neighborhood or prevent any development. Again, the facility is unstaffed, very low maintenance needed, and the antenna and equipment will be on top of the building and will not dominate the area, and has been up there for several years. There's adequate utilities already in place for the proposed changes they'd like to do. Fifth and last finding deals with, again, it's not detrimental to the surrounding area. It can be operated in a manner that's compatible visually with the surrounding neighborhood. It's deemed essential or desirable to preserve or promote the public health, safety, and welfare of the city. Again, the antenna is equipment. It's on top of the building. It has been there since at least 2000. It will be operating in a manner that's not detrimental to the surrounding area. The upgrading equipment will provide a service to the city. It'd be additional improved communication capabilities for the city, for T-Mobile. And again, they're using the concealment tape or film on the antennas and equipment to screen that visually from the surrounding area. We did have just one citizen response form from the building owner, the Housing Authority of the county, indicating their support of the proposal. That's in your packet. So in conclusion, we'd recommend approval of the special use requests and bring a legal non-conforming special use into compliance. They're proposing to upgrade the equipment and should have no negative effect on the surrounding neighborhood. I did prepare a sample motion for the commission that approves the special use permit, and with the two conditions, which are the same we did for US Cellular when that was approved. That the antenna equipment upgrades, proposed use of the concealment tape should comply with the drawings indicated on Exhibit A, and that plans were in your packet that T-Mobile had. And they'll be required to submit the necessary application plans to the city, meeting all the applicable building codes when they proceed, if approved by the council. So that's a sample motion in the report. Again, I think the concealment film is something kind of new, but it looks from the presentation that it, and from what I've seen, really does really hide that concealment. That's what we're trying to do. So, but there's also an option, the applicant indicated, if we want to have panels screening the antennas or the cabinet. I think at the very least, it looks like the antennas would, the film on that would work very well, and if we need to screen the cabinet with the panels with the brick materials of the color that matches the building, and maybe, it looks like just two sides are needed, because that penthouse on top, if you look at some of the photos simulations, there's a large penthouse that's covered in brick on the top, and their cabinet's right next to that one, so I think just screening two sides, the south and east side, would probably do it if we go with the panel. So I'll leave that kind of discretion up to the commission, but.
Thank you. So I'd like to open up to anyone in the public that would like to, that may have questions or any comments on the proposal. Would you like to? You're welcome to, if you'd like. Just state your name and address.
David Lehman, 621 Karen Avenue. And Amanda, thank you very much for coming this evening. And if you're able to shed some light just for me on this, as I understand you're going to be replacing an antenna, taking some down, and that I assume is going to improve your coverage? Okay, that's good. So there's probably antennas are undergoing development all the time and improving their coverage and their capacities, and that's what's driving this this proposal. Okay, that's great. So I just wanted to confirm that, okay, so we're improving the service for T-Mobile to DeKalb. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And for those in the public, she was answering yes to Mr. Lehman's questions, so for the record. And I will note that there was only one person from the public present, so I will allow the commissioners to ask questions or make any comments. And I'll start
With me?
Yep.
Well, Happy New Year. I have two questions. They're a little bit redundant, and I just want them, if anything, for the record to kind of repeat what that answer is. Miss, and I'm sorry, I really don't know how to pronounce
If
that
you
name.
could go ahead and go up to the podium, that'd be great. Thank you.
Wexford.
Wegerson.
There you go. You mentioned that this is a one-to-one replacement of the equipment. So is there any expectation that at the end of the process, you are going to be using any more surface area than you are currently using?
No, there will be no increase in the amount of space that's utilized.
Okay, so that basically means, for the sake of our understanding of this set of antennas, not only T-Mobile's, but other companies that are there, the amount of space available will remain the same.
Correct.
For those that are already there, T-Mobile and other companies that may be interested. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you very much. And the second thing I wanted to ask, I know, Mr. Olson, you mentioned it. I just want to say it again for the record. I know that this is one of my pet peeves. I'm reading on page 3 at the top, second sentence, the existing equipment is considered legal non-conforming use as they do not have a special use for the property. And my understanding from later on page 6 is that this special use permit will bring a legal non-conforming use into compliance. In other words, this is going to be, with this special use, this is going to be a legal conforming situation, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead and stay in case anybody else has any
Okay.
questions.
Clarified my question.
I was glad to hear that you used the red arrows to indicate where the panels were, because I thought those were antennas. And I didn't think anything had changed from one picture to the next. I also appreciate the, the effort going into getting rid of visual pollution, as you say. So I wanted to note that. We're replacing TMAs with radio units. Can you explain the difference in the two?
The difference is in the frequencies that are being used. So within the last year or two, T-Mobile acquired the L700 spectrum, 700 megahertz spectrum, which is a low band spectrum. So the idea behind it is to improve data and for it to go further distances. So the two pieces of equipment work similarly, but the radio units are the piece of equipment that's needed to support that spectrum.
And you talked about new RF modules, right?
Correct.
Explain that a little bit to me.
The RF modules are very similar to the radio units. So some of them in a typical, if you were to look at a typical tower, something that's not installed on a building, there's the equipment that's located at the top of the tower and there's the equipment that's located at the base. So what we do is we have coaxial cables or hybrid cables or hybrid fiber that are connecting the radio units to the antennas to bring power and to amplify the signal so as to not have to include additional equipment. So those are what we call ancillary equipment to help support the antennas instead of having to install additional equipment. That's why we're able to stay with the 12 antennas.
Okay. That's all I had.
That's all you have? Okay. I do have one question about the concealing tape. I think this is a great concept. I'm glad that you all have looked into something new and newly innovative. The question that I have, though, is, so obviously it's made for weather and wind and all kinds of stuff. What is the anticipated time frame that this would stay on before maybe it may start to peel or have to be replaced? Do you know? And this is just a curious question.
Yeah.
Like, at some point, would the wind start getting to it or the elements get to it that it would loosen it?
I do have some specifications directly from 3M where I do believe that they included a timeline. So the expected performance life is 10 years, and that's for an unwarranted period applied to a flat, vertical, or outdoor surface. But I could absolutely inquire further with the firm that T-Mobile would utilize to install that and to see what their experience has been.
It was, being that it's so new, probably, obviously, is not 10 years in use yet, so
Right.
probably they don't know. So it was a curious question to see. So I'm assuming that the anticipated would be, and maybe in 10 years something better will come out and have a similar case. But the anticipated would be you might have to change it out every 10 years, which probably isn't a big deal.
Sure, and I would also just note, similar to when, if a carrier is required to paint a tower a certain way or install things a certain way, the expectation is that it would be maintained. And so the same thing would apply here. You know, if something was peeling or was deteriorating, I'm sure if I were to speak to our client, they would have no problem maintaining.
So with that, how often do you inspect your antennas to see the maintenance? You know, how are things holding up? Is there anything loose? Is that monthly, every couple of months?
I would say on average every few months. Mainly, I believe Dan had mentioned it in his report. There's sort of an automated system if something goes
Gotcha.
down or if it doesn't come through. So a tech would be
Dispatched.
visiting the site. And then at that point, they would work with operations, which is a separate department, to get anything that needed to be fixed. Also, we're in pretty frequent contact with the property owner. So if they draw something to T-Mobile's attention at that time, they would also
Great.
come in.
I think it's a great concept. I think it's awesome.
take
So,
is
but here's another question then. So is your plan, and maybe I just didn't pay that close of attention, which is possible, because I'm still kind of in holiday mode. So given that you've got the opportunity to use this concealed tape, is your hope to put it on all of your antennas that are up there, not just ones you're changing out, and all of your equipment that you're able to cover?
That's
Is
correct.
that what I'm understanding?
Yes, it
Okay.
would go on to all existing and then everything that's being changed, so the one per sector.
Okay, great. Okay, I don't have any further questions.
I'm only concerned about birds, but I wouldn't, I mean, do you know anything about birds hitting these things? And
Like they do with windows sometimes?
Yeah,
Right?
actually, when I was speaking to them, that was something funny that I thought came up. That's sort of a common concern for cell towers. I guess the I don't want to say the shine on it, but the material that's utilized apparently is something that they are not drawn to. But again, I could get more information on that.
that's okay.
Okay.
My thought too was the sun. So if the sun hits it and bounces back, like how is that reflection going to show on an airplane or, just things you think about.
Yeah, I think part of the way it's manufactured, one of the benefits it says helps reduce intensity of the sun glare. So I think that's also that matte
Cool.
finish that helps it not be as
As glary, yeah.
as reflective.
I still think it's a cool concept, so,
Cool.
yeah.
Just one note on the, which I talked to the applicant recently, is regarding the cabinet and this concealment tape or reflective tape on that. Just like to see how that would look, or if that's going to reflect, since that's a little further back on the building, is that going to reflect the penthouse up there, or is it going to? So part of the motion, if we could just have part of that, just the applicant work with staff to look at other screening for the cabinet only, and then have the reflective tape, if it deems to be better, if we need to use a panel, brick panel around it, if that works better, or if it's a reflective tape works better. But definitely for the antenna and the radios, the other equipment, this reflective tape, concealment tape looks really good, so.
Great. Okay. So, I'll give one more chance for the public if there's any further comments or questions. Okay, so I'm closing the public hearing portion of the meeting. And, is there any further comments or questions from the commissioners? Any further discussion? If not, I'd be happy to take a motion.
I will be happy to do that motion and follow the sample motion in the package. The suggested commentary by Mr. Olson, I would suggest that somebody bring it up as an amendment, because I didn't write all my notes there. But based upon the submitted petition and testimony presented, I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission forward its findings of fact and recommend to the City Council approval of a special use permit for upgrades to existing T-Mobile antenna and associated equipment on top of a 16-story building located at 507 East Taylor Street, subject to the following. 1, the antenna and equipment upgrades and proposed use of concealment tape shall comply with the drawings indicated on Exhibit A. 2, the applicant will be required to submit the necessary application and plans to the city in compliance with applicable building codes and the regulations of Article 7.08 of the Unified Development Ordinance.
So we have a motion by Castro. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Wright.
Just a note here, I record the second. I wrote down the possible, if you want to do the amendment, as I kind of discussed, that the applicant would work with staff to use other screening for the cabinet if it provides better screening and reduces visual impact. So we'll kind of take a look at that, and for the cabinet, and if it, concealment tape works better than screening it with some type of, material similar to the building, whichever seems to work better, then we'll kind of go with that. But the rest of the equipment with the concealment tape, so. If you agree with that amendment, you can just add that in, and I'll need a second to it.
Second.
Does someone want to agree to the amendment? Do you agree to
I
the
am
amendment?
I'm sorry, I am in agreement with the amendment.
Okay.
And I
And
second.
the second agrees?
Yes.
Okay.
So the amendment has been okayed by Castro and seconded by Wright. So the motion is as stated by Castro with the amendment as stated by Mr. Olson. I'm not going to repeat it. I'm sorry, I don't have it written
I got a
out.
document, yeah.
So, roll call, please.
Commissioner Barbie, Commissioner Buckley,
Yes.
Commissioner Castro,
Yes.
Commissioner Kroll, Commissioner Neer, Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
Chair Atherton.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Any reports?
Next commission meeting is the 17th. So we do have one scheduled public hearing regarding some text amendments to the UDO regarding self-storage facilities. So at this time, that's the only item we have for that agenda.
Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
So
Second.
moved by Wright, second by Buckley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you.